Welcome to the November 15th, 2021, 6 p.m. meeting of the Johnston County Board of Commissioners. I now call the meeting to order. As customary, we'll do the prayer and the pledge. I'd like to call on Mr. Lauder for the prayer and Mr. Brazel for the pledge. If you would, please stand.
Bow heads. Father God, we like to thank you for the many blessings that you've given us. We'd like to thank you especially for our veterans. We thank you for all those who serve the citizens of Johnston County. And we ask that tonight you would be with us and lead us and guide us as we make decisions for the best of Johnston County. Of course, in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Please join me as we honor America in saying our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, first item on the agenda is approval and discussion of the agenda.
So moved, we approve agenda.
Second. We got a motion, got a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda is consent agenda items. We've got A through E has been pulled. We've got A through D. Does anything need to be added, deleted?
So moved, we approve consent agenda items A through D.
Second. Got a motion, got a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next on the agenda, presentation from Larry Wood.
Okay, we all know Mr. Stewart and his situation. I got a plaque here from the county and from the board, and I'd like to read it. With sincere gratitude and appreciation for dedicated service, Johnston County Commissioner from 2013 to 2021, Chad M. Stewart, and in recognition of devoted leadership as chairman, December 2020 through November 2021. I'd also like to add, I just appreciate your friendship, your debate. You know, we all hadn't always agreed on everything, but it's always been civil and it's always been in a friendly manner. And by that, I just say thank you. Here. Anybody else like to make some comments?
Board, I really appreciate it. My staff, Johnston County employees, and most importantly, the citizens of Johnston County. I'll probably have I'll have a few more comments towards the end of the meeting, but thank you very much. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
We might want to comment now, Mr. Chairman, because a lot of these folks will be gone by the end of the meeting.
All right.
But I would say I appreciate you being on here, Chad. It's been good to have an ally. We haven't always seen eye to eye, but we've been on the same side of the coin more often than we've been on the opposite side, so I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
And I would just add, not many people that I know can out-talk me, but you are one of the few. And I know that our wives put up a lot with a lot of conversation, but I do appreciate your mentoring me and the many conversations we had. Our relationship's one I valued while I've been on here, and I know I'll continue to value it and appreciate you well into the future. And you'll be getting some calls too.
I'm sure. Thank you. Our wives will be relieved. Late night phone calls, and they're not 10 minutes. So, and they're not all during the week. But thank you.
I'll go next. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You go ahead.
Chad, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate your contribution to the board. Johnston County is better because you were here and because of your dedication and hard work to leading this board and participating in all the things that we've done. I have to agree with Mr. Lauder. Y'all are both talkers, but that's okay. We always come out with an opportunity to agree or agree to disagree, but we always work together as a team and try to do what's best interest for the citizens of this county. And I really appreciate your friendship and your dedication to the service of the people of this county.
I appreciate that.
Job well done.
Thank you.
Chad, I just want to say I've really enjoyed watching you grow as a leader this year. I think you've done a great job.
I'm really sorry you're going to be leaving. I think you bring a lot to this board and a lot to this county. You carry on a pretty good legacy of your dad too. So thank you, and I wish you a lot of luck.
And you serve with both of us.
That's right.
Thank you, thank you. Oh, Lord.
Well, Mr. Chairman, let me tell you, I was fortunate enough to be here in 2013, and unfortunately, the passing of your father and the opportunity to appoint you to this board. You know, I hear people say you need to be more like Wade, but you're exactly like Wade when it comes to being available to the citizens, to work with the citizens, to answer the phone, to return calls. And so you're exactly like him, and you serve for the same reasons. You're here to help. And it's been an honor to watch you grow. You paid your dues. You came up and you served through a lot of committees, and you did a great job as being a chairman. And you know, I'm going to miss you here, but I'm probably the only one to have the opportunity to put up with you every day. So, but you know, I honestly say that you thought a lot of, and the public likes you. Most of the time, we sort out our differences before we ever get here. But again, you know, they're going to miss your availability. They're going to miss your willingness to help. So good luck in your new job. Congratulations. It was well deserved, and it's been an honor. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Appreciate all you guys. And as you mentioned, I believe Ted and you were the ones on the commissioners that appointed me to this board, and close to a decade. You're still here, and I'm leaving. But I'll still, in my new role, will still be serving the public, and I look forward to that. And I've already started to get my feet wet. But thank you guys a lot. So let's get on with the people's meeting. Next on the agenda is cooperative extension resolution for Farm City Week and special recognitions. Our favorite ag guy, Mr. Spivey.
He didn't say that I was the only ag guy. But I would just like to offer my congratulations to you, Commissioner Stewart, for your years of service and for your support of the people of Johnston County Cooperative Extension and what we do. And I would echo some of the comments of the others. Had the pleasure to serve in this role with your dad, being a county commissioner as well, and have some fond memories of some ways that he supported me at some key moments in my career here. And so I had a great appreciation for him as well. But thank you for your service.
Thank you, Brian.
Gentlemen, I believe you have before you a resolution for Farm City Week, and this is something that has been done many years in Johnston County to celebrate Farm City Week, which is all about the partnership between agriculture and the consumers here in the county. And this is part of a greater celebration that goes on throughout our country. And if you'll humor me, I'll read that resolution to you now, which reads, whereas agriculture has always been a cornerstone of Johnston County's way of life, we acknowledge that dedicated farmers improve our well-being by working to ensure a healthy and abundant agricultural supply. To succeed in this important enterprise, our farmers rely on essential partnerships with non-rural communities to supply, sell, and deliver finished products across the country and around the world. During National Farm City Week, we recognize the importance of this cooperative network to the success of the agricultural industry. And whereas farming was America's first industry and continues today to provide us with many of the necessities of life, such as food, clothing, and fuel for our energy needs, agriculture employs a substantial number of workers in Johnston County, including farmers, shippers, processors, marketers, retailers, truck drivers, inspectors, and others who annually contribute billions of dollars in value-added income in Johnston County. Whereas we welcome new opportunities for trade, hard work, and successful cooperation between farmers and city workers to continue to play a vital role in our country's success, and be a critical resource for countless people here and around the nation. And whereas Farm City collaborations help maintain and improve our nation's food and fiber supply and contribute to a better quality of life for countless citizens. We commend the many Johnstonians whose hard work and ingenuity reflect the true spirit of America and help to ensure a prosperous future for all. And whereas we gather with family and friends around the Thanksgiving table, it is fitting that we count among our blessings the vital Farm City partnerships that have done so much to improve the quality of our lives. Rural and non-rural communities working together have made the most of our rich agricultural resources, and they continue to contribute to the health and well-being of our people and to the strength of our economy. Now therefore, we, that being you, the County Commissioners of Johnston County, do hereby proclaim November 19th through the 25th of 2001 as Farm City Week. We call upon the citizens in rural and city areas to acknowledge and to celebrate the achievements of all those who, working together, produce an abundance of agricultural products that strengthen and enrich our community and nation. Proclaimed this 15th day of November, 2021.
So moved, we approve the resolution.
We got a motion, got a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much, and I would then like to say thank you to the board as well for allowing us to do some of the recognition that we typically do at our Farm City Week banquet here in the board meeting tonight, to allow more people in these times of crowd restrictions and so forth related to COVID to try to provide an extra measure of safety, but yet still publicly recognize those people that we're honoring for Farm City Week. And this is something that our Farm City Week committee essentially does every year. We recognize a farmer and an agribusiness, or a farm family and an agribusiness family that have made significant contributions to the whole agribusiness industry here in Johnston County. We didn't do it last year because of the COVID situation, and we're modifying it just a little bit this year. But here again, it's of no less importance. And I would say to you, you know, while this award may not have a specific title, some people refer to it as the Farmer of the Year or the Agribusiness of the Year. Some people might call it sort of an Agricultural Hall of Fame for Johnston County, which is, both those titles may be fitting, but really this recognition, I believe, recognizes and honors sort of a lifelong sustained contribution to agriculture and agribusiness in Johnston County. And it's not just a footnote in time of a specific year or an event, but yet it's a long-term recognition. And so in light of that, our first recognition tonight is the Myron Smith family. They are our farm honoree for Farm City Week this year. Myron he's here with us tonight, and I'll call him up in a moment. Myron is the owner of Smith's Nursery, located just outside of McGee's Crossroads in Benson, North Carolina. His parents, Nolan and Catherine, purchased the farm in 1953 that Myron and his family continue to operate and farm today as Smith's Nursery. That's located not far from West Johnston High School on Sanders Road. Myron attended North Carolina State University and graduated in horticulture in 1975. He met his wife, Sarah Ferris. Sarah was from Wilson County, and Myron convinced her to come to Johnston County and help him farm. And so while he was a student at NC State, he met her at Peace College. The current farm started as a tobacco farm, and Myron transitioned that farm to the commercial nursery business starting in 1980. The farm operation added on strawberries in 1994, and they started U-Pick strawberries and U-Pick other things in 1995, and also some retail plant sales. Later on, they realized that agritourism was a coming thing, and through some tours of local school kids with their children, they started doing agritourism in 1999, when local school children would come into the farm to experience what was going on the farm. Myron's son Chris returned to the farm in 2008, and their son Mitch returned in 2013. They're both here tonight. Chris has been instrumental in adding greenhouse fruits and vegetables to the farming operation. They're even growing strawberries in the greenhouse, and you know, they're going to probably have strawberries maybe for Christmas, maybe at Thanksgiving. He could tell you about that, but they're working on it. I've seen them. And Mitch is continuing the wholesale nursery operation there. In the past year, the farm has added a store featuring fresh produce, value-added goods, local meats, dairy, and is complete with an ice cream and coffee shack. I can attest, I have eaten the ice cream there. Matter of fact, I have eaten the ice cream at both of these places. And so I'm very pleased this evening to recognize Myron Smith and his family. I want to ask Myron to come on forward now. And I have a plaque here that says, presented to Smith's Nursery for making significant contributions to the citizens of Johnston County by the Farm City Week Committee, November 15, 2021. And Myron's going to make a few comments and introduce his family, and we would love to take a picture with you all if that's possible. Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you.
As I told Bryant earlier, we're honored and humbled to be recognized here tonight. I'm not sure we're worthy, but we are certainly honored. I'd like to thank the Farm City Committee for their work on planning and organizing the events of the coming week. I'd also like to thank the Farm City Committee and everybody who participates in agriculture, who advocates for agriculture, who celebrates agriculture here in Johnston County. Thank y'all. And I want to introduce my family, my wife Sarah, my son Chris, his wife Arlene, my grandchildren Charlie, Nolan, my son Mitch, and my daughter Ferris. And I'd like to say to them, this is off the cuff a little bit, this is an honor, but it's also an honor for me every day to go to work on a farm where I was raised, and I worked with my mother and father and brothers. And now I'm working with my children, and I'm watching my grandchildren grow up on that same farm. That is an honor.
That's special. Well, here, Mr. Smith, what we'll do, first of all, we think we need to give you a standing ovation and your family, and then we'd like for you to come up and... If y'all would, just circle around, maybe put the small ones in front, not behind the podium. And we'll be in the backdrop to run the picture for you.
One, two, three. Okay. Let's get one more, y'all. One more. Okay. We go 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Appreciate it, y'all.
Thank y'all. Yeah, thank you. On behalf of my grandchildren, I'd like to thank you for they love going out there in the pumpkins and ice cream and the animals. So.
And Mr. Smith, also, you know, my family's been in the nursery business since '75, so we understand the struggles and the rewards.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say something.
Yes,
Mr. Smith, I've been involved with the Farm City Week ever since I came back to the county in '96 through my employer, KS Bank. And I must say that you guys are a great addition to a stellar role of outstanding farmers, but also outstanding citizens. If I think back over the years, all the people from up northern end of the county where I come from to down in the south and out towards Bentonville, all of these folks have been outstanding farmers, but they've been outstanding citizens in every community. So I congratulate you.
This is absolutely the case, and part of, I think, if I could speak for the committee, what the committee tries to recognize is people that have served in many roles beyond what they do on their farm, And that could certainly be said of Myron and his family. And Myron's been active in the Johnston County Nurserymen's Association, served on extension advisory committees, and even the North Carolina State Extension Advisory Committee. And Myron has served in countless volunteer roles, he and his family both, and so we really appreciate that. Our next, like I said, traditionally we recognize a farmer, someone representing the farm operation side of things, but we also like to recognize an agribusiness. And so our 2021 agribusiness honoree is the Ronnie Parker family. They are the owners of Ronnie's Country Store in Four Oaks, North Carolina. Ronnie is the son of Coolidge and Julia Mae Parker. He grew up in the Blackman's Crossroads community, graduating from South Johnston in 1970. He did a stint in the Navy, and when he came back to Johnston County in 1976, he started farming. He was raising tobacco, soybeans, and a variety of other things, and he started truck farming with Howard and Willie Hockaday. And during that time, Ronnie got his start wholesaling fruits and vegetables and that kind of thing. On November 1st of 1984, he opened his first two-bay service station in Four Oaks in town. And he was providing automotive services, gasoline, and tires. And in time, that location was expanded to begin offering tractor tires and truck tires. And later he was forced to move from that location by the change in the interchange at Four Oaks. And in 2000, he began to establish the new location at I-95 and 701. And that business now provides supplies for the agricultural community and others, from non-highway diesel to non-ethanol gasoline, and tires from everything from a lawnmower and a golf cart to a tractor and right on up, and trucks, implement tires. They provide clothing for farmers, shoes, hats, knives, sell local specialty foods there in the store, hardware. It is a true what you think of as an old-time country store. And if you've not been in there before, I suspect most of you probably have on one occasion or another. There's a little bit of everything at Ronnie's. And in addition, Ronnie's still truck farming, and he sells a lot of what he grows. You know, those are corn, melon, squash, cucumbers, onions, peas, and more, that he sells a lot of that at the store. And one of my favorite things about Ronnie's, and probably some of the staff there might vouch for that, is the Hershey's ice cream that they sell. And Ronnie has been awarded the Golden Scoop Award, selling over 300 gallons of ice cream per week in the summertime. I'm pretty sure I've contributed to that goal. And Ronnie has 20 employees at that location, including full-time and part-time. Additionally, the help of his two daughters, Casey and Kelly. And you know, Ronnie's store is a place that many young people and the farm there have gone, and they've been trained up and learned skills that serve them well in life. And I would say Ronnie, again, has been a community supporter, much like Smith's Nursery has. And you know, one thing that I'm aware of that Ronnie's does is supporting our Johnston County Youth Livestock Show and Sale, and the children that participate in that. So with that, I want to recognize Ronnie Parker to come up. And Ronnie's here with his family tonight. And I've got a plaque here for Ronnie that reads, presented to Ronnie's Country Store for making significant contributions to the citizens of Johnston County by the Johnston County Farm City Week Committee, November 15th, 2021. So Ronnie, turn it over.
Okay. I appreciate everybody that made this happen. Proud of it. And proud of the people in Johnston County that made me be where I'm at. If it weren't for Johnston County, I wouldn't be there. And this is my family, my wife, Karen, my oldest daughter, Kelly, and her husband, Fred. Kelly, her husband's not here yet. And Greg, he managed the tire shop, and Leslie, his wife. And we've been inside of 95, 37 years. And most of the business is local. 95 is good in the summertime, but local business is what's carried us through. And I thank y'all.
Ronnie, I appreciate all you've done for the Forge community. You know, that's my community.
Oh, yeah.
And it's definitely, Ronnie makes it happen, and people count on him, farmers, residents, not farmers. And what I really appreciate is you hire my son to help you on the farm. In the summertime.
Yeah, I worked about 7, 8 school boards every summer.
And then if you don't have enough on your plate, filing period's coming up quick, and
Mr. Chairman, he might not remember this, but I do a little bit of farming on the side just to keep my fingernails in the dirt. 2 or 3 years ago, I needed half a bag of corn. And I don't know if he sells half a bag, but he met me out at his house and he sold me half a bag of corn. Seed corn. And I appreciate that.
You got money to buy.
And the sweet corn seed is the kind I plant, 100,000 kernels. This year was $970.
Wow.
we appreciate what you do for the community. And if you don't have anything else, I'd love for your family to come up.
Okay,
And
all right.
if they'd like to say something, more than welcome. Anybody would like to speak.
I'm just thankful I have grandchildren and can go get ice cream at all these places. We went down and spent about 2 hours eating ice cream one day.
The man told us the only one place that bought more ice cream than we did was Butler Prison. And they buy fine.
There you go. You're tall, you're ready to move.
Good. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, thanks, y'all.
Go round of applause.
I think we need an ice cream break.
We could have had a taste test.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank everyone.
Thank you.
The family, everybody. It takes a family to run a family business, no question, in some form or fashion. Brian, thank you. Thank you for all you do for the county.
See y'all.
Thank you.
I wonder if there's anywhere he has not ate ice cream.
All right. While they're clearing out, next on the agenda is public comment. I think we might have some people that would like to speak, public comment. Chris, do we have anybody out there for public comment?
Yes, sir, they come.
Okay.
Public comment.
Okay. It is public comment period. It's a time when anyone in the audience would like to address this board on any matter that's not on the agenda for 3 minutes or less or roundabout. Do we have anyone that would like to address this board? Welcome. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Listeners. Wrong page.
Uh-oh. That means you got more than one page.
Yeah. Again, good evening. Yeah, I'm gonna run. Thank you. I always been self-conscious about being so short. But anyway, I have been told for years all politics is local. In Johnston County, I beg to differ. As a political analyst, I don't even consider myself an amateur. I probably don't know enough to even consider myself to be ignorant. But looking at some numbers, which I like to play with, going back to 2018, looking at the population of the area, and I discovered that the population of a few towns, such as Clayton, North Carolina, 22,850. This is going back to 2018. I haven't had an opportunity to catch up with the newest census. But Smithfield, 12,669. Selma, 6,913. Johnston, 3,832. Pine Level, 1,978. Kinley, 1,547. Princeton, 1,377. And Micro, 520. These are just a few examples. And this, I think, is the city limit, population in the city limits. I didn't go all into the townships and to what they call it, the unincorporated community in the area. But it appears to me that Clayton and Smithfield have a lot of influence on elections. Matter of fact, it almost seems like that Clayton and Smithfield together can see the whole board. Seems to be kind of disturbing to me. Now, again, I believe that politics should be local. People need to be able to choose representation in their community. To put it lightly, Johnston County politics, put it lightly as I can, Johnston County politics almost seem like colonialism. The superpowers, Clayton, Smithfield, having so much influence in the area. There are other numbers that disturb me, found it disturbing. Looking at Johnston County ranking in the state, ranks in the top 10 in growth and development. Then you go back and look at Johnston County ranking in poverty. And it also ranks in the top 10 in poverty. These numbers, you know, how can we be being so successful in growth and development and doing so badly in improving the living conditions of the citizens? I wonder why this. And, you know, I think the county commissioners is the leading legislative body in the county can be able to help answer some of these concerns. Or maybe I should be talking to some local town officials, maybe Chamber of Commerce. But anyway, I don't believe in ghosts, but there are some shadows lingering around hiding this political process of everybody voting for everybody across the county. And I believe it's a process that needs to be run out of the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for the speaker?
We didn't get his name, Mr.
Oh,
Yeah,
I am so sorry.
Yeah. I think we're changing the rules a little bit. We don't need your actual address, just your name and a general area of where you live in Johnston County.
Yes, sir. And please forgive me again. My name is Timothy Hodges, and I live in Clayton, North Carolina. Like I said, I might be a little biased, being born in Smithfield and being raised in Clayton. I know that there's some smart people in Smithfield and Clayton, but I don't think they should have so much influence in the whole county. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair, is this something that we could have our council address at another meeting to give us an update? I know it's a question that's come up on the board and from other people, just to address our process and what.
Did you make a note of that?
Data.
Yes, sir.
Okay, remind the board at some other time.
We can do that at December 6th
Yeah.
meeting if you'd
Right.
like.
Okay. Thank you. All right, it's still public comment period. If anybody would like to address this board, welcome. Good evening.
Hey, good evening. Gentlemen, thanks for having us this evening. See, we're as a team, right?
Yes.
I brought my beautiful bride Jennifer with me, with Kevin and Jennifer Ogleton. We're residents of Clayton, and also have been licensed foster parents for the past 4 years.
Good.
And we've got some concerns to talk about with you guys tonight. Now, I'm going to turn it over to my wife, but she does a much better job of this than I do.
Okay.
She's the boss.
Absolutely.
So I will turn that over to her.
I don't know about that, but at least he said I was the boss.
There you go.
But you can't go wrong here.
That's right. But we have had multiple placements in our home since we've been licensed. We've done respite and multiple placements. But our past 2 placements, we had a sibling group of 2 little girls. They were sisters, and we had them for 2 years. And 6 weeks ago, DSS came in, no warning, no notice, nothing to us, came into our home and gave us 5 minutes to pack a bag for them. 2 little girls, the plan had already changed to adoption. We had already said, yes, absolutely, we'll adopt them. We have 4 children of our own, so this was not, we didn't go into fostering to adopt. We went in because this was something that the Lord placed on my heart to do, and this has become my passion. But these 2 little girls that left were 5 years old, and the one actually turned 3 the week after she left, and so we still have her birthday presents wrapped, sitting in our table. But they've been with us for 2 years. The 5-year-old, obviously, we got her when she was 3. She came to us from a severely neglected home. I mean, she came to us saying 5 words, ate off the floor, out of our garbage can. We taught her how to, use silverware, and taught her how to ride a bicycle, and we taught her about the Lord, taught her about Jesus, and to get upset, I'm sorry.
Try not to get us upset.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
There needs to be some eye-opening experiences here. But she actually graduated speech when she's been with us. When she was 3 years old, we couldn't find a therapist that would take her. And there was so much neglect and so much trauma that she suffered. We paid out of pocket for a therapist, which we calculated for the past 2 years was over $15,000 we paid out of pocket for this little girl to get therapy. And I would not change it for all of the money in the world. She needed to play therapy. But this was us knowing that they were going to be a part of our family forever. We've had 5 different caseworkers in 2 years. All 4 of our other caseworkers, we loved. Absolutely loved. They loved us. We were always called the best foster home in Johnston County, which I think they tell it to almost everybody. But honestly, we just are. I mean, I love them, and I tell every caseworker that comes to my door, these babies will be loved like they are our own, because they don't deserve anything less. There was definitely a power issue with number 5. A lot of inappropriate comments were made at our home, just things about how many dresses the girls had monogrammed, how many hair bows they had. Of course, I try and make a joke of it, saying, we're in the South, they're supposed to have monogrammed dresses and hair bows. I mean, we're in North Carolina. But every other caseworker was completely on board with us adopting. We met with the head of DSS after they were removed. We demanded a meeting. He actually admitted to us that we did nothing wrong. So I said to him, when are our girls going to come back home? And he's like, well, I can't really give you an answer to that, but I'm going to look into things. He called us back a week later. He asked to have a week. We said, absolutely, take a week. He still can't give us an answer of why these girls were removed. He did admit that there was protocol that they missed on their end, and that's what I believe, that there was some sort of paperwork mistakes I think the caseworker made, and so they're covering it up. And unfortunately, these 2 little girls, and I know they're not the only ones, but I'm the only one I'm okay losing my license to fight for them. Because there's so many foster parents that won't stand up against DSS. Because we're blackballed, we get in trouble, They take away your children. Anything you can possibly think of, they will do to you. Both of these girls suffered additional trauma, being moved to their third foster home. We were supposed to be their permanent foster home. We had already said, yes, we agreed, we'll adopt them, absolutely.
Ma'am, can I stop you right there for a second? So they weren't put with a family member willing to take them or whatnot. They were taken
They were
away
placed-
from you as a licensed foster home and placed, I'm assuming, with another licensed foster home.
Absolutely, yes.
And you're looking for the answer.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And I want an investigation because I feel like this is happening too much in DSS. Everybody says that these children are resilient and they're going to bounce back. They're fine. They're not resilient because if it was, we wouldn't have generation after generation after generation going through foster care. I mean, and this is why we have this, because they caused additional trauma to these children.
Do you know where the kids are at?
I do not. We were given 5 minutes to pack some pajamas for them, some clothes, but
And I'd like to add.
Well, we're going to, once again, we've got a representative on the DSC. I've served on that committee. Mr. Brownsville served on that committee. Our current member is Mr. Harris. So we might can save you a little. We're getting the picture unless there's something else that we really need to know.
well, I want you to know that in the last year, DSS has lost 15 foster families in the last year. They have so many children coming in right now that they don't have the foster homes. They're having to place them into private agencies. Private agency costs more money. They have now lost 16 because I refuse to work with DSS anymore.
Well, I know our time is short.
Yes.
And we want to be heard, and I think this is the best forum for us.
Absolutely.
To be heard. We really appreciate this because we really don't feel like we're getting anywhere. And we've met with folks at the high level. Now we're at the higher level where we believe we can get something done. This is how we serve our community. This is how we give back. We're big into serving the community. And we're adults. We can take a pounding on the chin. It's not right. I'm concerned about what happens to these children because it's not right for them either. So the experience that we had is unacceptable. And what we're asking for is some optics from your committee here and the commissioners here to look at this and really dig deep and find out what the root of this problem is. I think we know what it is, but I'd like for you guys to look in there and help us out.
Can I turn this over to Mr. Harris?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'm gonna write your name and
Absolutely.
number, and if you don't want to share your number with the whole group, just give me.
If you can't, give it with the clerk.
Give it to the clerk there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I serve on the DSS board as a representative of this board of commissioners, and I haven't been there a year yet, so I will be glad to look into this and try to get you some answers. This is the first I've heard of it, so I don't have a lot of good information to give you other than the fact that my heart goes out to your situation. I mean, that can't be a good,
I believe
that
that
can't be a
those
good
little
situation.
girls, their rights have been violated. Their rights are to have a safe and permanent home situation, and they've had it with us. We have two bigger girls that literally, our 12-year-old hasn't slept in 6 weeks. And she will say, I will sleep, Mommy, as soon as my little sisters come back and sleep in their bed.
The experience is like a death in your family.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, yeah, it's unimaginable to come and yank him 5 minutes notice.
A 5-minute notice. I can't even,
So I appreciate
Yeah, we thank you approaching the
But
board.
also, I just want to mention one more thing.
Uh-huh.
I have been told, and you'll hear somebody after me, this is not Deanna, the caseworker's first removal. And she's only been on our case for the last 4 months. She's moved several other children from permanent foster homes. Just to
Okay.
put that out there.
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Did the caseworker never give you a reason for removing them?
No, sir.
And I guess you met with Mr. Sabatino,
Absolutely.
and so he doesn't know.
He couldn't.
Well, we believe he knows. We actually had a meeting with him the following morning that this occurred. He gave us a week to look into things. We had a face-to-face meeting, then we had a phone meeting about a week and a half later. And it still wasn't clear for us. I mean, we still don't have answers to what's going on, and I appreciate Mr. Harris, you looking into this.
If you will give your name and number to the clerk, I will call you
Jennifer?
personally
Yes,
tomorrow.
Yes,
I think it's right there.
I was going to say, I've
Yeah,
emailed
Mr. Smith,
Mr.
we
Smith
reached out
multiple
to your
times.
office as
Yeah.
well, and I will tell you, we've reached out to a lot of different offices. We have, we've gone to, Don White's office, we've gone to Lisa Barnes' office. I mean, this isn't right.
No, we've
This
talked to
isn't right.
Brent
I'm just telling you it's
Behringer
not right.
and Tamara Behringer, and they told us to come here. I mean, we've spoke to our congressman. I mean, there's so many people we've spoke to, and we're desperate to get our girls back, and desperate to make sure that they're okay, because they don't know why they were taken away either.
Well, I can assure you, this board will go beyond to make sure that you're treated
Thank
fairly.
you so much. I
Thanks for
appreciate
having
that.
Is this your number right here on the, is that you? Is that your number? Is that a correct number?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
That's it.
I will call you tomorrow
Thank you.
and give you a follow-up to what I've learned, okay?
Thank you.
Then we'll go from there.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely,
Thank you for coming.
absolutely.
Thank you for hearing us.
It is public comment. If we have anyone, yes, ma'am. Good evening.
Good evening. Well, kind of shocked. I was told I was the best foster mom in Johnston County. But I'll say I was the best single mother of Johnston County. I have 2 beautiful children who have gone on this journey with me.
Name?
My name is Amber McGann. I am not with Johnston County DSS. I'm with a private county, with Agape of North Carolina. And what they have said follows with me. I had 2 kids, actually I had 3 out of a set of 4, come and stay with me for a year. I even talked to the parents of both of the kids who have already contacted me again asking me to take guardianship of these kids. They were removed from my house on 7/1 of this year. I had 30 minutes. I've had these kids for over a year. I had 30 minutes to pack everything and say goodbye to these kids.
Was it the same caseworker?
Same caseworker. I was told a month in advance that there were some complaints by the father, but they said I was one of the best foster moms that they had ever had, and if they had any problems with me, they would have removed these kids a long time ago. This was my 4th caseworker with these sets of kids. The mother cried when she found out they were being replaced from my home. She begged the judge not to take them out of my home. Those kids have been moved 7 times since they've been taken out of my home in July. Those babies want to come home. They tell the social worker every time, when can I go back to Amber's house, Miss Amber's house? When can
Do
I
you
go back
still
home?
have a foster kid?
I have, no, they were all taken away. All of them. I have foster kids from another county, and I still have room for those kids to come back.
But you're still the guardian over some foster kids from another county?
Yes,
So you
that is
still,
correct.
you still have foster children?
I still have foster children, and
Okay.
I'm willing to take a total of, it would be a total of 6 kids in my house.
Mm-hmm.
My 2 oldest, 2 from another county, who have given me raves and said that I'm one of the best foster moms they ever had. The 3 kids that were removed, one was diagnosed with autism, which she had been passed on from foster home, and I was like, why don't she come and stay with her siblings? They couldn't figure out what was wrong with her. I said, there's nothing wrong with her, she's just autistic, and she needs the proper care. The little boy that came to me, he was 2 going on 3, could barely speak. He had rotten teeth. Every tooth was rotten. I took him to the dentist, and I stayed beside him while they drilled into his mouth and put him under anesthesia. That boy graduated from speech therapy before he left me. He could pronounce everything. The little girl, she was held back a year. They didn't even think that she could even go into 2nd grade. She's above grade average before she left my house. I'm not saying that I wouldn't take them back. I'm just saying that we need to advocate for these kids. They don't have a voice. If these kids can look at the social worker who took them and say, I want to go back home.
Isn't there a guardian ad litem program that is an advocate for these children and their voice?
That is true. They've gone through 4 of them with this case. The last guardian before the 4th one who was replaced wanted these kids to be adopted by me. We were working with the parents for the adoption process. They were willing to sign over their rights as long as they stayed in my house.
Did you get a reason? Excuse me.
No, no reason. I was the best foster mom. You've got 30 minutes to get the kids.
Does the law, when you sign up, require a reason?
They do. You're supposed to have a reason. There is supposed to be a logical reason why a judge would remove you.
A state statute.
There has to be. And even my foster license agency, Agape of North Carolina, refuses to work with DSS of Johnston County now. That's one agency that they have lost.
Well, if you don't have anything else to add, I think we get the picture.
Please, spell your last name for me. And then, okay. I had it right except for one N. I left one N off. There we
It's
go.
okay, it happens.
Do you want to share a phone number with
I
me?
will do that.
Rather than word it out there, I'll just put it down, you just write on that paper down there if you don't want. I'll be glad to follow up with these and find out. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
Okay, that's alarming, and I'm sure Mr. Harris will do, as always, a good job on getting to the bottom of it and finding out exactly what is going on, and he'll be very responsive to you guys.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much.
Okay, we're still in public comment period. Hello.
Hi there.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Oh, it's good to see you, Mr. Smith, Mr. Harris, Mr. Braswell, Mr. Stewart, Mr. Wood stepped out, Mr. Water, and Mr. Duffy. I'm Angela Leggett. I live at Smithfield, in Smithfield, North Carolina. I just have two things. One, congratulations, Mr. Stewart. I sent you an email.
Thank
You're
you.
the best.
And congratulations to you too for getting a new way we do business up here.
Thank you, thank you. It's always good to add value instead of take, right?
That's right.
So two things. First thing, you guys, I'd like for you to consider getting bigger chambers. You have a lot of people growing, and the more the merrier, they say.
We do have a space study being conducted right now, and a group of commissioners are overseeing that study, so I do think that might be part of it, so.
Good, good.
And I agree with you.
Okay.
I agree with you.
Well, we definitely want more people in here, don't we?
Yeah.
And the other thing I'm having an issue with is Johnston County transportation. So I would like to, the lady, she really got me emotional about the kids because, you know, that's really unfortunate. Foster care, it's bigger than just that. You have to think about the parents that these children are being taken from and the restrictions or the requirements that are put on them, which takes me to the transportation thing. We have a lot of cases where the parents are asked to do counseling and things like this, where you're talking about a parent who actually is probably on drugs or has no transportation, has no home, things like that. We can't expect them to get to counseling once a week. Transportation in Johnston County would help. And I understand we have JCATS, but JCATS is usually for the state, Medicaid, veterans and things of that nature. And there are only 30 buses, I believe. So I'd like to propose maybe a committee on the viability of transportation, like a real public transportation system, like they're doing up in Durham and Raleigh. I know they're anticipating expanding to Clayton, but I think for Smithfield, the way we're growing Johnston County, I think it would do us some good if we could actually get somebody in Johnston County in this area to consider our urban and rural areas. And that's really all I have. Off my soapbox.
Absolutely. Thank you. No, you've been very helpful in the past.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
maybe we'll look into that and see what's going on with the transportation other than JCATS or what. Thank
If there's
you.
anything I can help with, you know where I am.
Absolutely.
Okay, and good luck.
Thank you. Thank you. We are still in public comment period. Anybody would like to speak to this board on a matter that's not on the agenda? Do you have any emails, madam?
No, sir.
No emails, nobody in the hall?
No, sir.
Thank you, Chris. All righty, next portion of the agenda is Antioch Fire Department, letter of support for USDA loan. We're gonna call on Chief Kendall Hocutt, our friend from Antioch.
First, I'd like to apologize for not being dressed nicer. I got called out of the county and couldn't make it back to Creek Church Road in time.
Hey, we're
I do apologize.
in Johnston County, we're public, yeah.
So we're wanting to, and negotiated buying it's a used fire truck from the Swift Creek Fire Department in Wake County. The trucks are, I'm very familiar with it, and it's a very nice piece of apparatus, and for the amount of money that they're asking for it, we feel like it's a good deal. We've solicited loans from 3 different banks in the community, and as most of you know, we're building a new fire station at this time at Antioch, and we're connected with the USDA on that loan itself. So obviously, we talked to them also. They'll finance the truck for 10 years at a 2% fixed rate. Nobody else, Southern Bank, KS Bank, First Citizens, were all contacted. None of them were able to meet those terms at all.
Make a motion, we approve.
Second. Got a motion, got a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion? Aye. Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say, Chief, thank you for your excellent work, and your department has always served as a real inspiration to other departments around the county. Antioch's a fine department. Y'all have done very well up there. We're proud of you, and thank you for your service.
Appreciate it. And y'all get an invitation on the open house.
I was going to tell you, Chief Hocutt, I was going to bring that up. I know many years ago, I was involved in helping facilitate this, and I will not be sitting with this board, but I would like to.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would like to go and see it finished.
It should last the community in that area a long, long time, and with the growth that looks like it's headed our way, I think it'll
Be beneficial.
My mama was raised on Creech's Church Road, and you're dressed fine.
That's right. All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, next on our agenda is emergency service, approval to purchase ambulances. We're going to call on Mr. Hubbard and Mr. Holloman.
Yes, sir. Thank you all for the opportunity to be here.
Kevin, let me save you some trouble. I'll make a motion, we approve this.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. For the public watching at home, the agenda and information is online, and it can be pulled if they wanted to know details.
How many ambulances is this? 6. Okay.
All right, thank you. All right, next on our agenda is solid waste services, approval to purchase crawler dozer.
Good morning, or good afternoon, everyone.
I think I have you for several things here.
Yes, we have a lot of stuff we're buying, or trying to buy. First item is a landfill bulldozer. This is being provided, the quote is being provided by James River Equipment Company in Garner through our Sourcewell contract. Price of the dozer being recommended is $377,671.64 plus tax. This is set up for a landfill specific. It's got extra bars and protective devices as well as a push blade for trash. That may explain the higher price. The department is requesting authority to buy this. And I can answer
Mr. Chairman,
if y'all have it.
Mr. Hester, are all these things in this year's budget?
Yes, sir, it is.
I think so, yes, sir.
Yes.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Wood, would you lead into the fact of grouping all these into one big motion?
Yep.
Commissioner Smith's motion.
Because we've got 2 more from solid waste and their purchase of equipment, and if they're already budgetary items, I think you were alluding to the fact that.
I'm fine to make all 3 of them.
Okay. Got a second?
Yes, sir.
Got a motion, got a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wait. What about this next one?
That's me.
Archaeological.
Well, I've got a question for
Okay, please,
Rick.
by all means.
I know you came here to deal with these 3 things, but since we expedite, I've got time for a complaint. A citizen called me today.
Okay.
And he had a lot of history at the landfill. And he said it used to be where you could get 10 trucks, 8 or 10 trucks dumping at the same time so you could get in and out quick. And said he was there for an hour today, and there was only availability of 3 trucks to be able to get in there and dump where the big machine's pushing it off and that sort of thing. So I didn't know if the cell you're working in will allow expansion or anything like that?
The 10 wide was maybe a little exaggerated. We typically do a 5 wide. We are in a very peak of a landfill. We just closed what we call 4A. We're in an old phase 5.
Right.
And we're delayed because of our new landfill is not open yet. So we were like at the peak of a mountain, and traffic as well as side-by-side profiling is not really available. So our restricted side-by-side dumping is the space we have available to dump.
There's always a reason.
There is, and of course, the top of the mountain is very thin. So we hope to, when the new landfill opens, have a wider area to dump it with 5 or 6 wides and go back to what we're used to.
Okay.
Hopefully that'll be in mid-January is the target date for things to get back to normal.
Great. Great.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Rick.
All right, thank you.
The public, it was good for them to hear that, because I get the calls also.
Yep.
Okay, next on our agenda, this is solid waste services. I believe we're going to call on Counselor Ms. Slusher to talk to us about archaeological material.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. You have before you a resolution approving conveyance of personal property to the State of North Carolina Department of Cultural Resources. These are fragmented materials that were found on the property of Johnston County as we were doing the survey for the landfill. Under the law, we are obligated to provide these materials to a federally approved curation facility, and we are requesting that this transfer of fragmented materials be approved for the state of North Carolina. Otherwise, I think they'll have to go to Georgia, so we would like from the state of North Carolina.
So moved to approve the resolution.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All righty. Next on our agenda is the Neyland Planning Comprehensive Land Use Plan Update. I will call on Mr. Newton, Planning Director, to introduce our guest.
Good evening. So, as promised, we brought our leadership group with our consulting team to you to further update you on the comprehensive land use plan. So this evening we'll have with us Meg Neeland, principal at Neeland Planning, and Ben Hitchings with Green Heron Planning, principal at Green Heron Planning. So without further ado, I'll ask Meg and Ben to come forward.
Welcome.
Right, thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thanks for the time this evening to give you an update. I'm Meg Nealon with Nealon Planning, as Brasden said, Ben Hitchings with Green Heron Planning, and we are moving along through the process. I'm happy to take this opportunity to give you a brief presentation on where we are.
Well, you've been well anticipated, and probably how I see this going is you're going to go through a presentation. Obviously, at the end, there'll be time for questions, but I've got a feeling if a commissioner, while you're on a point, wants to question, then they'll stop the presentation, take care of that item, and move forward. Is that good with you guys?
That sounds great.
Okay.
Okay, good. Ben and I will take turns. You have the clicker. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Okay. Okay. So, again, this is a brief presentation. I'm just looking through just to look at, I'll cheat by looking to the side. It's just touching on a few things. You know that we are coming to the conclusion and starting of phase 1 and entering into phase 2 simultaneously. So we wanted to touch on a few things. Some of them are about the summary of the input that we've received to date. Ben's going to go over that, and also refinement of our draft goals, which are still in a draft state. So, but we've gotten some input that has helped us do a little bit more refinement. As we move towards our next steering committee meeting, we are digging into ideas about policy, and some of that information that goes into our analysis is suitability. So I wanted to share a little bit of that with you and give you a taste of some of the conversations we're having as a team based on the input we've received to date and what those goals are telling us about the direction of the county that we should be considering. So, so I'll come back to that, formulation of the early stages of land use concept, and then we'll touch on some next steps. So a little bit about the schedule quickly before I turn it over to Ben, and that is that we are still sticking to the schedule that we've talked about since we got going in the spring, And we are hoping to, as I said, we're moving into phase 2. As we wrap up phase 1, we think the next 3 months will be extremely important as we work to come up with some policy ideas that are responsive to the goals, because those are responsive to the input that we are getting. So as that starts to take shape, that'll give us what we need to move into a public meeting to share those ideas, get feedback, and keep moving from that point. So we'll come back to schedule at the end of the presentation. But at this point, just a little highlights of the community input to date.
Very nice to be with you all this evening. Again, my name's Ben Hitchings with Green Heron Planning, and really enjoying being part of the team here, helping you in Johnston County. And many years ago when I worked for Triangle J, my first project at Triangle J was working with the town of Benson, so it's a pleasure to come back. You received, of course, 2 weeks ago, an update from Mr. Newton on the project that included some information about public involvement. We've been working away on that to really try and let folks know about the project and give them an opportunity to share input with us. One of the ways we do this is with a survey, and so the county's really been promoting that, and we feel like we've gotten a really strong response on that. About 2,200 folks have responded to the survey, so that's given us a lot of good information. We'll talk a little bit about some of the highlights of that. As you know, of course, we have the steering committee that y'all appointed. We've had one online meeting and 2 in-person meetings with the steering committee, so they're really starting to get into the groove of understanding the project and giving us their input and reviewing materials that we produce. So we like to talk to them before we do a major public event like the public forum we did, and then we come back to them afterward. Yes, sir, Commissioner Godwin.
Before we leave that 2,200 responses, what kind of diversity of those, I mean, what kind of people? Was it all the same type of people, or
let's see,
feel for that?
We do. We have good metrics on some of the early questions in the survey are, where do you live? Are you a Johnston County resident? Are you from somewhere else? Are you a business owner, et cetera? About 95% of the respondents are Johnston County residents. Some of them are also business owners. Some of them maybe work here, but from outside the county. I don't believe we know the geographic distribution. They do say their town.
They do say the town
Yeah.
they're associated, they're most associated with, and they also let us, what was interesting to us is the breakdown, they shared age groups, and that one pretty much is in sync with the population breakdown by age group too, so that was an interesting correlation.
The reason I ask, if you had a survey about environmental stuff, you'd probably get 90% of them, what we call tree huggers, responding, because that's their interest. And I was just wondering if we were getting that kind of concentration of interest from that broad range.
That's a very good question. We always are cognizant of whether we're sort of self-selecting the audience. This is, we've advertised this, and the county's advertised this as tell us about the future of Johnston County. So it's advertised broadly. It's not advertised around a particular issue. And just looking at the demographic information of the respondents, it seems to be certainly diverse geographically. Of course, Clayton and Smithfield, as I recall, did have stronger representation as one would expect based on the relative population in those towns. But yes, good question. Yes, sir.
To follow, so is that something we will be able to see at some point in the end where that geographic distribution is, so we can see if it's 80% in the Cleveland, Clayton area?
Yes, I think we already have that pie chart that shows that distribution. We can share that with you. But,
yeah, that would be interesting. And the other thing, we talk about almost 2,200 responses, but I know at one time, and was it Wiki Maps that we were going to put, is that up and running yet?
It is available and working now. I don't know whether or not it's on the website.
We don't have those up yet, but we'll get them.
Okay, so yes, so that will be available to folks that can continue on with that, as well as a short survey that mimics what was asked of the community.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to continue to provide opportunities for input while we, before we got finished, so.
One of the nice things about the survey system we use, SurveyMonkey, many of you may have filled out one of those, is that it does give us a good summary of all the responses and helps us provide nice display graphics. And you'll see a few of those. I think you saw some a few weeks ago with Mr. Newton, and I've got a few that I can share with you as a sample, and then we've got lots behind that in terms of additional data to give you a feel for who's participating. So had some good engagements with the steering committee. We're headed for another meeting shortly with them. Again, we like to meet with them before and after we have a major public engagement, and we just had one back in late November with this public forum #1 that we had at the Ag Center. Had about 65 people. One of the things that I just observed as sort of staffing one of the tables was it seemed like there were some really good conversations. You know, that's a forum where folks can come, you can talk, and we had stations sort of organized by topic and issue. And folks can come and talk with us, and we can have a full conversation. Sometimes several of the participants will talk to each other. So I think that was a productive session as well. All right, so now let's talk about some of the highlights. This first set of highlights is drawn from the survey. One of the questions we asked was, you know, what do you like about Johnston County? Folks told us they love the location, they love the sense of community, they love the community appearance. Those are things that those were the sort of top-rated items in that category. We also asked them, just, you know, what are you concerned about? And you can see here on the right, oops, let's see. There we go. Sorry about that. We've got one of those summary graphics from our survey system. And you can see growth management issues, perhaps not surprisingly, rated high, as did traffic and roads. Folks also, then moving to the next tier of issues, talked about the lack of entertainment options. Some folks felt there was too much commercial development, and then also the lack of recreational options. You can see there are also a diversity of responses on other topics as well.
Location meaning relative to the beach, mountains, to Raleigh, that type of thing?
Yes, that's what we assume. I think that's reflected in the written comments that we saw as well. Obviously, we know we've got both strong employment in the county and great proximity to employment in the heart of the region. One of the questions where the response really jumped out at us was this one, where more than 70% of respondents said that they feel like growth has occurred too quickly. We also ask, we try and mix sort of multiple choice questions with open-ended questions. And so one of the several of the frequent comments we saw in the open-ended questions included things like too much uncontrolled growth, a concern about the loss of farmland and open space, and also concern about the schools and the sort of the capacity of the schools to handle the student demand. A third category, or a third set of results is drawn from that public forum, from those individual conversations. And so the way we set up our public meeting room is that we have stations and we have activities and opportunities at each station for folks to tell us what they think about a particular topic. So, and again, you know, this is a smaller sample size. You know, we're talking 60, 65 people. So consider this maybe initial feedback on some of these topics. But you know, one of the stations was on parks and recreation, and the feedback that we got was strong support for these activities, and in particular for passive recreation opportunities. So that's everything from like a greenway along, say, a creek or a trail, a nature park, to things like game lands and fishing areas. So that, and then there were some comments about, well, maybe the towns have the active recreation covered a little more. And so maybe, as we see these kinds of comments, we begin to think, okay, what might that mean for the plan? Maybe there's more of an emphasis on the county working on passive recreation, in its new parks and rec system. Another question that we got was a desire for concentrating commercial and higher density development, particularly at where that development is occurring at interchanges. We also have folks similarly thought suburban and small lot housing is probably more appropriate close to municipalities and where there's existing infrastructure. I was staffing the ag table, and we had a map asking folks, where do you think agriculture would be the most viable in 20 years? And we invited folks to put dots, either a red dot for no or in a particular area, or a green dot for yes. Not surprisingly, those dots really match what we might surmise, where folks thought there was a lot more potential for ag in the medium to long term south of I-95, but also in the eastern area and in pockets elsewhere. I thought that was interesting. It wasn't just all red in the northwest and all green elsewhere. It was there were some pockets. I think, and when we look, and Ms. Nealon will show some maps that highlight where there are agricultural districts and where there's a lot of present use value land. There are some strong pockets in other places as well. And then finally, folks told us that they really thought we need some alignment between where new development is approved and where we've got infrastructure capacity. Again, I don't think any of these are too surprising. All right, so let's, any questions on that public feedback? Again, we are able to provide you with a lot more detail, particularly on the survey, thanks to the survey system that we use. So we'll be bringing that forward as backup material for you. All right, let's move on to goals here. And so our starting point with the goals, this is a comprehensive land use plan update. So we started with the goals from your 2009 plan. We know that a lot has happened in the last decade plus since that plan was done. And so we've been working to update those goals, working in particular with the steering committee to get their feedback. So we went through a whole exercise with the steering committee, gave them some homework to think about what they thought ought to be updated all together. And so we added a few things, subtracted a few things, modified a few things. Right now we've got 15 goals, and let me just sort of describe them in a summary way, and then invite any questions or comments. The goals are ranging from things like compact growth that's more efficient to serve, having adequate infrastructure and providing it in a cost-effective way, of course, having quality development in the county. We want a diverse economy. We know that makes us more resilient in the face of economic cycles. And we know the importance of a skilled workforce to help support that diverse economy and provide job opportunities for folks with a variety of different kinds of skills. We know that housing is so important in the county, both the availability of different types of housing in different parts of the county and also the cost of housing. As you may have heard from Mr. Newton last time, we know that wages have been not growing as fast as the increase in housing costs, so affordability is a big issue for a lot of folks. Also coming out of the pandemic and the economic disruption that has caused for some folks. We also have a goal regarding protecting existing neighborhoods and then also preserving farmland and maintaining the vitality of the agricultural industry. We know how important that is both economically and also culturally to the county. There's another goal speaks to recreation, both passive and active recreation. And I think a key point that folks really emphasized with us is the value of connecting those different recreational jewels with trails so that you can travel, say, between one park to another, and that makes a fuller experience for folks often. We also, of course, know coming from the survey results how much folks value the rural landscape, and so that's reflected here. And also those key sites that, like a tobacco farm museum or other kinds of places that are so important that they're worthy of preservation to help tell that story of the history of the county. One of the things that I didn't fully appreciate until we started working on this project was I always knew that Johnston was at this wonderful transition from the Piedmont to the coast with the fall line. I didn't quite appreciate that the sand hills are also, you've got, also a part of the county, and you and Southern Wake County are the only places in North Carolina, I believe, where you've got 3 physiographic regions, Piedmont, Coastal Plains, Sandhills, in one county. So you've got special sites both historically and also naturally and culturally. Other of the goals then move on to talk about relationships, if you will, coordination both amongst county departments and with other agencies and with the towns. And the importance of just having a chance to coordinate and collaborate in service to shared goals that y'all have. Then one of the things the steering committee really emphasized was they said, we have all these things that we value, and we're going to produce this plan that's going to lay out our vision and our strategy in the decade or two moving forward. And we really want to make sure that we've got strong implementation of that vision. So they asked that be a separate goal. And then one of the things that we saw a little bit of in some of the survey results, and Commissioner Lauder may speak to this as well, because this topic was the focus of the recent regional summit of Triangle J, was also starting to develop the system for attracting emerging issues. We're coming out of the pandemic. That was a shock that I don't think many folks anticipated. We know the impact it had on government operations, on folks in the county. And so if we are able to do more to track emerging issues, that gives us a chance to develop our emergency response and our management mechanisms to a higher degree to help us prepare for the next disruption. Because the world seems to be changing faster and faster around us. So that was one that we kind of are putting out there to suggest for y'all's consideration and for stakeholders in the community to consider moving forward. And with that, I'll turn it back to Ms. Nealon.
So we are using these goals throughout the process. It's important that they are the right goals for Johnston County, because as circumstances change, these are the guideposts, if you will, that all of you and any future county leaders should be looking to make some decisions if you don't have a direct answer from the plan. So it does guide our work, and we've started to talk internally as a team of what does this really mean? How does this start to show up on the ground? And that's when the land use concept starts to come into play. So I'll give you a little taste of some of the things that we're looking at as part of our analysis as we move into that, and that starts with the suitability.
Can I ask one question before you
Yes.
start? So the third bullet list, utility service provisions, is cost-effective and equitable as one of our goals. So I know we're working on a land use plan, but it seems to me it's closely tied to public utilities. So in your opinion, is this something we look at based on what the land use plan we come up with? We use some sort of predictive model to look at the future cost of the public utility extension and maintenance based on what we come up with? Is that the point we do it, or is it part of this process?
You could, as a goal, it's really just being good stewards of the resources that you have, so that comes out in everything from utilities to service delivery of all kinds. And so as serving, it's a comprehensive plan, but the focal point of it is future land use. And as you go through a process like this, what you're really deciding is that future pattern that then sets you up for what are your priorities for service, where is infrastructure going to be extended, and how do you sort that out? So it can go that far as part of a utility study, and you may see a recommendation come out of this plan that a utility study be done at a level that starts to get at those costs as well as priorities. So it should set the stage for, if this is where we want to direct growth, then this needs to be the place that we start investing more in capacity, extensions, and so on. So it helps answer those questions, but it also informs other plans that should come after and be informed by this plan.
Okay, well, that's good news, because we have a study underway to look at regional approach to, or countywide approach to our utilities, so it sounds like this will kind of go hand in glove.
Absolutely, and it's never a perfect situation where the land use picture, if you will, gets finished
Right.
and everything else falls in line. You often see this simultaneous, and so that coordination, that's the goals about coordination and communication across departments and with agencies, becomes extremely important. So whether it's parks and recreation, schools, all those kinds of things come into play. So people are always asking, I mean, somebody wrote by hand in one of the notes at the forum, how do you even know whether or not, we can pay for all of this? Well, we don't know. So the short answer to your question is yes, but the timing, I think you will always be served by that information whenever it comes in, and the more that you've got the same sets of eyes looking across all of this so that they all work in concert, that's what you're aiming for.
All right, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so suitability. So we look at, and this is at a very high level, we're looking at very general types of land use and conservation when we think about what exactly are we examining, and more importantly, how are people going to select land for different types of uses. So we try to do this suitability both from the standpoint of what does the land tell us it wants to support in the way of development, what do utilities and other infrastructure tell us, but also, those are the kinds of things that we see, the factors that are in play when site selectors are looking for land for industrial and commercial development or even residential development. So it gives us a little bit of a picture of where development is naturally going to be drawn because of what's available, parcel size, what it's close to, those kinds of things. So this first one that you're seeing is where residential is going to be drawn, and I'm sure this is no surprise to any of you. It's where it's already happening, and most of the proposals that are coming through the door in the county and in the municipalities are associated with these red areas that you're seeing on this map. When you go and go to the next slide and look at the commercial development, one of the things that you'll notice is that it lands in a lot of the same places that are also suitable for residential, but it is a much narrower area because they're looking for those places where they can get the visibility from the highways, the access, and so on. So those factors are a little bit different, but still mimicking what we see site selectors looking for. The next slide is the industrial. And again, there is overlap in what's suitable for residential, for commercial, and industrial. And one of the things that I think is really interesting about this is it starts to paint that picture of, well, it is good for 2 or more uses, and we're going to see competition for that land for different types of uses. And so this is important for us to know because we need to know where are those places where it could be gobbled up for residential, but we also know that it may be a prime site or area for economic development. So you may want to be looking at those areas for job growth, additional employment in Johnston County. And what are the policies that go along with that to make sure that you can direct development accordingly. So those factors are in play. On the flip side is the conservation. So we've heard from the steering committee and we've heard from the public that your natural resources are really important, not just for the obvious environmental purposes, but many people recognize the value of those assets as part of your Ben was talking about the passive recreation, the desire for that, but how that it feeds into an overall system that can be enjoyed by Johnston County residents as well as visitors. So it's a place for people to get outside and can become an important part of a really meaningful system. So what you're seeing here is more of a point system that's assigned to some of the assets that are in the county. This is our first take at looking at some of those things to point out, here are the things we've heard, here are the things we expect people to say, you know, are important in the county, and how do they measure. So the darker it is, the more you're seeing co-location of different factors that are building up in those locations. We also looked at agriculture. So as Ben said, the types of, let's see, I flipped there. So, so the types of land that we're showing in this agricultural suitability, we look at the physical factors like prime farmland soil, but we also look at who's already operating, who's in a present use value program, who is in the voluntary ag district. And again, kind of from a point system, it starts to elevate those to see which ones are really probably some of your best agricultural lands within the county. It's also noting things like we know that the fragmentation can really start to take away from the viability of agriculture. So we're looking for those areas with large parcels that are also contiguous, so you get those larger areas even when you have multiple parcels. And so that's the beginning of that. What's interesting to us about that is it is also pretty consistent with, your people know your county. So it was consistent with the information we gathered at the public forum when they were putting stickers on the map saying, here's where I believe the viable agriculture is. It is that area south of 95, and it is the in the northeast, and it is pockets all around. And so there's some consistency there. We have one slide in here that's a little bit about a refresher on the agricultural lands in Johnston County. So you do have a lot, and a lot that could be conserved over time. And then the policies around agriculture, we know that as urbanization continues, there will be areas that will be more challenging. That was also something that was identified during the public forum as areas where people were concerned about the greatest amount of encroachment and threats to the agriculture. So any questions about the suitability of one more comment about how that comes into play as we are looking at these things and looking at the goals, and as a team we will bring forward to the steering committee some ideas of what could be responsive, knowing how land is going to be selected for different uses, what's really important that we're hearing from the community through the input and reflected in the goals, and what does that first land use concept need to do. So it gives us a bit of a reality check when we start assigning different types of land uses to that initial concept to show that it's going where it would naturally go, but then also respecting the goals and ideas that people have shared to date.
I guess the trick to this entire process to find that suitable balance, because on some of that suitability, of course, you've got criteria listed of what makes it. But when I looked at that map, I thought, me and a lot of people I know are totally contrary to that. Those areas that were unsuitable is where I want to be. And there's going to be an element out there, of course, there's going to be an element that will not like whatever we come up with. I noticed that it's interesting, the public perception. Frequent comments were too much uncontrolled growth. We don't have any uncontrolled growth. None. I mean, think about it, guys. You can't build a house unless you got a permit. We don't have any uncontrolled growth. It's just the extent of the control and how that affects the velocity of that growth.
Right. So a couple comments about that, and I think this is an interesting one because it is perception. There are ideas that different individuals have based on their own personal experience in Johnston County. So if this plan does nothing else for you, it should be that communication tool, not to say yes in some places and no in other places, but instead these are areas of priority, and these are the areas that are de-emphasized. So in North Carolina, because we, unlike places like Florida, we have the ability to truly use it as a policy guide and let our decisions be informed by the plan, not regulated. And so I think that's part of the message that this plan needs to be carry forward is it's not just what the public wants or doesn't want, it's also factoring in the markets in play. And there are physical factors that are in play. So it is a blending of all those different types of things that are coming together, and out of this process, you should arrive at a future land use vision that, when you look back at the goals, it's the one that does the best job of setting you up to achieve your goals, and that's the primary point, primary focus of that.
How do you explain, as commissioners, we throw money for commercial growth, we ring a bell every time we get a commercial project, everybody talks about how great it is, and yet in your survey, people say we have too much commercial growth.
And again, my take on that, and Mr. Hitchings here may have a different one, my take on that is, again, it goes back to somebody's personal experience. They're speaking from what is their day-to-day life and what's surrounding them. So that response may be coming from that specific situation where they've got a lot around them and it's impacting them in a way that is not positive. But you do have a lot of travel in and out of the county because people are going to work outside of the county. I think it's 75% of folks are leaving the county every day to go to work. So even with all of your commercial development, you probably could stand to have more simply because you're losing some to other counties as people leave and
So
spend
do we
elsewhere.
embrace that thought or disregard that thought?
About too much commercial?
Yeah.
Well, I think that there are two things that you could consider. Is one, the market conditions would suggest that there's still room for commercial growth. I think the one thing that we heard from folks is the location matters. So, and quite honestly, the quality of the design of the places that they land in and the accessibility, because it's often not so much the amount of commercial, but the impacts of that commercial. So design goes a long way to managing some of those impacts. I was interested in the fact that we heard from the community about the idea of nodes. They said this stuff really needs to be in key places, certainly within our municipalities. They said nodes, but they were quick to point out, some of the ones that we were having conversations with, that they felt that the interchange areas needed to be looked at a level where you could better understand how to organize that commercial as a piece of those interchange areas. So it's a broad statement to say there's too much. If we dig down a little bit more, we will find out that it's traffic's keeping me in my neighborhood. I can't get to it easily. It's not exactly the shops that I want, and so the list goes on.
I say this tongue in cheek. I hope you know we didn't have to pay you to know that people are tired of traffic.
Right. That's, loud and clear, right? Okay. Any other questions about that?
Well, with the number of people that are leaving the county every day to go work somewhere else, I mean, that's one of the things that this board has leaned toward, trying to attract additional commercial growth for job creation and for median income increase within the county. And so it's almost contradictory to each other to say there's too much commercial growth, but yet we got 75. I've heard 49,000 people. I've heard all different numbers of people that leave this county every day and go work somewhere else. And we just wanted to create opportunities for people to work here at home and not have to travel outside the county.
Exactly.
Which reduces traffic.
Which reduces traffic.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So we're at that stage of the process where there's a lot of input coming in a lot of different directions. And so we're in that point of sorting out and making sense of that kind of information. And from that, we will distill some of these key messages that will start to make sense about what people are really saying. Because what they say when they walk in the door isn't exactly what the message they're trying to give us. So as we sort through that, we will start to understand that better. So yes, it is the same people saying, I'd love to be able to have more jobs in Johnston County so I can stay here and work, or they've got a different twist on what exactly the jobs should be. And you're right, the traffic, the commuting patterns shift. And so I do have to say, I mean, I really think Johnston County, when you look across the landscape of North Carolina, has really done a great job of landing a lot of employment in this county. So I think you're very fortunate.
I think personally, we have to be very careful to criticize people leaving Johnston County to go work outside the county. We are blessed to be next to the city of Raleigh. There are many counties that would love to have the dynamic universities, state government, all the things that Raleigh has to offer. And many of our citizens can get to Raleigh quicker than people in Wake Forest can get to Raleigh, quicker than people in Apex can get to Raleigh. So I think that's an advantage, and I think to say there are a lot of high-paying, good jobs in Raleigh, and I think we need to recognize
That's
that.
right.
We're blessed. That's not a
It's not a
bad.
negative, no, and that's what our data is showing too. So, absolutely, and you will always have that, right? I mean, it speaks to the quality of life in Johnston County right now. People are choosing this, even though their job is elsewhere. And so I think that's a lot of pluses.
And it's normal for people to be interested in how something affects me.
That's right.
I'm the most important right now, even though they care about their churches, they care about their county, they care about their communities, but the first reaction is, how does this benefit me or impact me?
That's right.
And that's where their emotion comes from. And then when you're in an elected role, you have those same feelings, but you also have enough information, enough meetings that you charge with what's it going to look like 30 years from now. What decision I make now is going to impact 20 years from now. We've got to worry about everyone and how everyone's impacted. So we don't have the advantage of me, what's my emotion right now. The second thing as an observation is education. And educate them on some of the stuff we're talking about. Why is it important to give incentives? Why are jobs important? Look at a place, do you want your kids to move to Ohio? Do you want them to work here, live here, where you see your grandkids? I mean, it's a big picture. It's not when I get up in the morning and go to work what I have to face. It's long term. It's education. Now, when I talk with people and talk through these things, they get a different perspective. So we do need to do a better job of educating the public on a lot of these things.
You're exactly right. And so what you're touching on is exactly what we're getting to at that stage of the process where we can go back to the public and say, here's what we heard. Here are some ideas for how your future development pattern might shape up. Here are the goals that it responds to, because that's what reflects what we heard from all of you. And then what's conflicting will come out when we show them alternatives and say, here's the direction you could go in, here's some ideas that would achieve your goals a bit better, and here's a slightly different way that you could also achieve those goals. They start to see the trade-offs, and that's where the education comes into play.
And it's human nature, what I see now. Well, our roads are crowded, our schools are crowded, okay? We can look at what looks bad, but let's stop and look at the road improvements that happened over the last 20 years.
Right.
They have been improvements, and they're still ongoing. Look at the roads 20, 30 years ago, and let's look at them now. And now let's look at them. Y'all need to envision 20 years from now, not what happens tomorrow when you leave for work.
Right.
Same with the schools. Since, 1990? I mean, look at the schools that has been built in this county. So let's look at the schools 30 years ago, and let's just envision, not what it looks like when we leave for work in the morning, let's envision 30 years from now. We're going to have more schools. We're going to build like they have done, and the future generations are going to do. So it's a moving process. It's not what it looks like tomorrow morning when I leave.
Exactly. And we hope that and what we do see is that when people are faced with the trade-offs that help them understand, oh, well, if that's important to me, then our land use pattern needs to do this, and I can probably live with this because that is something I really value. And so it sorts itself out in that way.
Let me clarify, too, that the people who leave the county to go work somewhere else, I don't view that as a negative either. I just like to give them options. I mean, I think it's great to be able to drive to Raleigh. My family's done it before. I commuted to Raleigh 30 years ago, and it was fine. And I don't discount anyone for doing it today. I just want them to have a choice. And then if they still want to go to Raleigh, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if we have some jobs available here in the county that are good paying jobs, some people might choose to stay home.
And in the new world we live in, and I assume we're going to continue to live in, probably at a more rapid pace, when you say how many people have a job outside the county, we can't assume that they're all leaving to go to that job, because there's a lot of people that are employed outside the county that are working from home. or not having to frequent the office place or the job space regularly.
And there are people who come into this county to work.
And we're missing that side. We're missing how many actually come in
We've got that number.
or live in Wake County and are working remotely from a company, our hospitals or
Right.
law firms or whatnot. So it's a lot of information.
And that's why I was saying Johnston County really is in a fortunate position compared to a lot of North Carolina counties, because you do have such a strong employment picture here. There are folks coming in, high number. You're right about that. But I also think, too, that the point you were touching on, things are shifting. And with this, people being able to work remotely and be in different places, I think Commissioner Godwin had the comment earlier when we first started, what about these people when they say location, it matters to them, what does that really mean? Well, I think some people are actually looking at it through the lens of, I can be in this really nice county. I'm close enough to Raleigh if I need to be there to go into the office once a week. I'm close enough to the airport, so if I fly to my job in Chicago, I get to pick here and work in Chicago. So I think that definition of like location, when people say I'm choosing it for the location, it's getting to be a longer list of things that fall under that heading because of people being able to choose new locations to do their work remotely.
And I completely understand the existing residents that, have been here a long period or have moved here in a short period of time. I can see them, and this board can too, saying, well, that's great, but we don't want to be Wake County. If we want to live here so we can enjoy Wake County, but if we wanted to live in Wake County, we would have lived in Wake County and enjoyed Wake County.
Right.
So there's a reason why we moved here, and it's not the same now as was when it did. But, that's growth pains. I'm sure Wake County struggled with growth at some point in time, and
Still do.
Still do, right.
That's right.
Well, anything else?
Just a little bit on the schedule. Our next steps are to meet with the committee on the 29th. So it's technically our third meeting, but it's really our fourth get-together with the steering committee. And so we will start to share some ideas about those land use policies, get their feedback, and bring that to a public meeting, most likely after the holidays. And then that will set us up for the last final stage, the third phase, where when we arrive at a preferred future land use and conservation pattern, then the recommendations, those policy recommendations and supporting strategies come into play. So that's where our focus will be in the spring. So we are working to stay on the schedule that we shared with you in the beginning. We have no interest in rushing this. So for any reason, if you feel the need that, a little bit more time for whatever reason is fine with us. But that is where our focus is now. One other thing I want to touch on is the action plan. It's something that comes at the end of the process. We talked when we first met with all of you about the products of a process like this. And that third phase with a lengthy list of policy recommendations and strategies can be daunting. I just wanted to reiterate that there is a step at the end of the process where we look to the steering committee and staff to help us pull out those things that are those near-term items that can move the needle. And so this just kind of gives you a little glimpse into an exercise that we use to take folks through exactly that and pull out of the plan what's needs to be the initial focus. And with that, we're still happy to answer more questions.
When I'm interacting with my peers in other counties, they always ask me, what's happening in Johnston County? Well, there's a lot happening, but this effort has been at the top of that list for some time. And I've been real impressed with your presentation tonight. Thank you,
Well,
both of you.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to do this and for your attention this evening. And we're enjoying it and look forward to more. I have a subscription to the Triangle Business Journal, and every morning, noon, and night I get something, and it seems like 90% of the time the articles are about Johnston County. So it's
Well, as Mr. Goblin said before, is that a compliment or a curse? You have anything, Mr. Long?
I did have a couple things. One, you had mentioned the March date, and if it took longer, let you know. And I've said that since day one. So I just want to make sure we get the best plan that we can. And I think we've got a great steering committee, and I would just say encourage you to use that as much as we can. If that's some more meetings with them to make sure we take full advantage of their wanting to be involved. I think they're up and ready to the challenge of that. So.
Yeah. May I say one more thing about that? The steering committee is a really great group. They are diverse. I think that the group that was put together, really a strong one for Johnston County for this process. The other thing that's refreshing to us is to hear from the committee members, get a range of input from all members, and then go to these, whether it's through the survey or the community meeting, and hear a lot of the same things. So it tells us that they're a great representative group of the county. So that's refreshing. So
Well, this board took a lot of time and effort to really involve a process to select this group. We knew how important it was, and then we've talked amongst ourselves. We're just astonished at the talent that actually agreed or wanted to be a part of the process and the diverse part of it and whatnot. So as I echo Mr. Lauder, please utilize that.
Yep.
That diversity in that group.
Absolutely. We appreciate it, so thank you for doing that. It makes our job so much better.
If nothing else.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next on our agenda is ordinance update pursuant to Session Law 2021-138. Our counselor, Ms. Slusher again.
Good evening, board members. On September the 2nd, 2021, Governor Roy Cooper signed into law a wide-ranging piece of criminal justice reform legislation, part of which decriminalizes certain local government ordinances. This legislation removes the current presumption that all local ordinances may be enforced criminally, and states that the ordinances now may be, not shall be, may be enforced criminally as provided in North Carolina General Statute only if the county specifies as such in the ordinance. It also provides a list of statutory sections in which counties cannot adopt criminal enforcement. That list of topic areas includes planning and development, stream clearing programs, regulating businesses and trades, outdoor advertising, solar collectors, cisterns and rain barrels, taxis, setback lines, curb cut regulations, and ordinances regulating trees. This legislation specifies that these changes go into effect December the 1st, 2021, and that towns and counties that would like to continue enforcing local government ordinances criminally need to make changes to their ordinances to be compliant with the new statute. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Sheriff Steve Bizzle for his guidance in this process, along with his colleagues at the North Carolina Sheriff's Association for providing local government attorneys their thoughts on how we should move forward to be compliant with this new law. In Johnston County, very few ordinances are enforced utilizing criminal penalties. We have found that working with our citizens and moving through the civil routes are typically the best methods in which to enforce. But unfortunately, there are times in which we have to rely on the misdemeanor process in order to move things forward that involve life, safety, and health. You have been provided with a draft amendment in your packet that essentially just maintains the status quo for ordinance enforcement and cleans up a few items related to animal services and emergency services. These proposed changes in no way impact our ability to enforce any ordinance through violation of civil remedies. And as the sheriff and I discussed in great detail, we always have the ability to lean on the criminal statutes with the state of North Carolina for other kinds of violations of the law. So the updates are in your packet, and they touch the following topic areas. One, animal services. You might recall back in 2016, we removed the criminal penalties associated with animal services. As we were doing this review, we recognized that third and fourth violations were still considered misdemeanors under that ordinance. We felt that that was not necessary. It doesn't get to that point. And frankly, this does not prohibit criminal enforcement of state law relating to cruelty of animals and those sorts of things. And so that was a cleanup item. The other cleanup item related to emergency services, when that ordinance was written,
The statute number was one thing, and it's been repealed, and it's been rewritten, and so all we did was change a statute number to make it match. The other areas are noise ordinance violations, violations relating to the county courthouse, discharge of firearms, public solicitation and begging, and loitering, allowing those to continue to be punishable as misdemeanors under our ordinance. Solid waste violations continuing to be punishable as a misdemeanor under our ordinance, and also connections to the reclaimed water system to be continued to be punishable as misdemeanors. So again, we still have the ability to enforce through civil means, and that is our preferred method. However, this update will allow us to continue to utilize misdemeanor enforcement when it is necessary. I'm not asking you to take any action on this item tonight. This is for informational purposes, but I do ask that you review it and that we take action on it at your meeting in December. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Jennifer, which will lead into this, as I normally try to do, recognize elected officials. We had Smithfield Councilman Marlon Lee with us earlier tonight, and we do have our good Sheriff Steve Bissell with us, if he would like to speak to this. Or
I'd just like to say that I've spent...
we're on camera now,
yes,
Sheriff.
I'd like to say we spent a lot of time together. The main thing that we enforce on the ordinance is the noise ordinance, the firearms ordinance, and then we got the ordinance on, the people that are out here beside the road, panhandling, that they got to come to the sheriff's office to get them a permit. I would like to say that in our discussions that we kind of got them a rule in the sheriff's office. We used a lot of common sense in applying the law, whether it's a North Carolina general statute or it's an ordinance. So, but I think what she has recommended, I'm all in favor of it.
Okay. Any questions for the council or the sheriff?
I do. The situation we had over in the Cleveland community where we had a fella who had trash literally out into the street, we dealt with that as a civil matter, didn't we?
Yes, sir, we did.
It became criminal when he contempt of court.
Well, that was actually civil contempt of court,
Okay.
but the remedy was
Going to jail.
to go into jail. That's right.
Well, I understand he needs to go again.
We're working on that.
All right.
Okay, if not, y'all will do this at your December 6th meeting, unless you don't need to look at it and review it, want to do it now. That's
Well,
entirely.
we need to wait.
Okay.
The statute requires that we introduce it at one meeting, and then you can take action on
Absolutely.
it.
Sorry for me trying to practice law.
I appreciate your willingness to push it forward.
We don't need that. We don't. Okay, you're with us again. Consideration to exercise option to purchase for Cox property.
Yes,
I think
sir.
Mr. Godwin said he had to step out to the bathroom for a minute, but we'll.
I'm back.
It's the board's favorite topic. So on October the 4th, 2021, the Board of Commissioners entered into a memorandum of option agreement and option to purchase the Cox property, which is adjacent to the new detention center. Since that time, due diligence has been completed. There were two outstanding items that needed to happen. One was a survey, and number two was an updated Phase 1 environmental study. Both of those items are now complete, and there were no significant findings with either of those. This option is set to expire December the 30th, 2021. If the option is exercised, and the terms and conditions of the sale are met, the transaction is required to close on or before June the 1st, 2022. If the board would like to proceed with the purchase of the property, staff requests the board's approval to exercise the option to purchase, and I would be pleased to answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Chairman, just to get this matter where it needs to be, hopefully, finally, I'm going to make a motion that we exercise the option.
Second. We got a motion, we got a second. I'm sure there's going to be some discussion. I'll start the discussion process. Obviously, I will not be here for the vote, which does not mean I'm against purchasing this property. What we're going to do tonight
The vote is tonight.
all we're doing tonight is to exercise an option.
No, we've
We're not buying property
already
tonight.
bought the option.
No,
This
we
is
did that last
exercise.
You're buying it tonight.
You're
We're
buying
buying it
it.
tonight.
You're buying it.
Yeah.
This would be the exercise of the option, and so
Option to
the
purchase.
option agreement.
Option, what's the option?
The option agreement then transitions into a purchase and sale agreement, and assuming that all of the terms of the purchase and sale agreement are met, then we would close and you would purchase the property no later than that June 2022 date.
Okay,
So
well-
you are making the decision to move forward to purchase the property
Okay,
tonight.
so that is tonight.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and the only holdback, I've been on both sides of this, and obviously I'll vote on it tonight, but I needed to know a use, and I think that we have identified a use that we could use it for, and which calms me, but anyhow, that's my discussion.
Mr. Chairman, let me just say, I have a lot of respect for Commissioner Godwin, and we've, I think, disagreed, hopefully in a friendly way. I just think this is critical for our county as we move forward to build infrastructure. Sheriff is, and I'm sure he can speak for himself, is very much in favor of us purchasing this. We've identified an option. We've talked about, we're probably all sick of the legal reasons and how it should be appraised, and I don't think anything that hadn't been said can be said, and I just think we need to move on. This will be another step for this board building the infrastructure that this county needs.
Absolutely. Ms. Gall.
Mr. Chairman, I've got a question I'd like to pose to the board, and it's not rhetorical. I want to hear an answer, because I think this is the biggest miscarriage and waste of taxpayers' money, or misspent taxpayers' money. We've found a use for it, but we don't have a need for it, because we've got other land across the road we could use for that same use. What I want to know is, what is too much? What would be too much to buy this property? $5 million? That'd be too much. But what is too much? What can y'all decide? Is it $1 million?
I think that's that question, Mr. Godwin. I think Mr. Smith could answer it. He's basing it off the
appraisal.
The appraisal that we
I
had.
understand, but technically
If
the
the appraisal
appraisal
came
is no
back,
good once we buy it and do away with income. That's gone. That's
well, then
gone.
what was the purpose of an appraisal?
Well said. But literally, what would be too much to face it? Let's back away. Would it be $100,000
Anything over the appraised price?
All due respect, Commissioner Godwin, I don't see how that is even in the equation to determine the action that we're going to do here tonight. I mean, we know what it's, we have a price set, and we know what it is.
Yeah, but nobody seems to be using common sense. It's income producing profit. That's the only thing the appraisal is based on, and it's going to go away.
We've already spent $70 million at this location.
Right beside it. And in doing that, we bought 6, 8, 10 acres across
Which
the
we've
road.
also got a purpose for that. And then we're hoping to buy a few more acres and have another purpose for it.
Are we going to buy it at $77,000 an acre?
Appraised price, I would hope this board do.
Well, again, I think the appraisal is bogus. Yeah, technically it's legal, but common sense, it doesn't muster. I'm not going to fight it more tonight. I'll live with it. But I think this is the grossest miscarriage of spending other people's money without really thinking through the whole thing.
Mr. Chairman, I call for a question.
Question's been called. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Madam Clerk, you have it?
Yes, sir.
I'm an aye. Okay. Next on the agenda is manager reports and comments. I think you've got something for the town of Benson.
Yes, sir. Board members, first of all, Chairman Stewart, I'd like to say how much I've enjoyed working with you and your father.
Thank you.
And, it meant a lot to me.
Thank you. The feeling is mutual.
Thank you. Mayor Medlin from Benson contacted myself, Mr. Wood, I believe, about a resolution to support, or to request funding from DOT for access road for Berry Global. And the mayor was going to be here tonight, but he could not make it, and I told him we would be glad to present this, and I would recommend that the board adopt the resolution. So requesting NCDOT to fund an access road for Berry Global.
All right, you heard the request? Do I have a motion?
So move we approve the resolution in favor of Benson's economic
Second.
growth.
We got a motion, we got a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. That's all.
That all you got for us, Rick? Okay, I think next on the agenda is board reports and comments. I think Mr. Harris would like to update us on something. Is it the county employee compensation?
No, not at this point. I'm still working on some information.
Okay.
And I'll bring it up the next time.
Okay.
And I will follow up on the DSS concerns.
Please
brought
do.
to the
That-
board
that
today.
kind of touch.
I will do that first thing in the morning and report back to the board and report back to these
And
families
as,
that are.
and as we know, fair to everybody, there's always two sides to every story. And hopefully we'll get to the bottom.
Yes, sir.
As Senator Jerry Tillman said, I don't care how thin you slice the bologna, it still has two sides.
You got it.
Mr. Chairman, did you have something, Tony?
Yeah, I don't think I was going to report, and that the fire study is done. It's a book about 18 inches wide, and there's a lot of material there, and certainly there's some work needs to be done by the emergency director back there and his team and his staff, and including myself. I hope that we can present a report to you either January or February. We're not going to push it because the holidays are approaching, so you should be able to have a fire report, the fire study report by January or February.
I have a big item that we need to discuss, of course. Before I do that, I'd like to follow up the resolution. I drove through Benson this week, had to go down that way, and I'm really impressed with that town. They're doing good things down there. My grandson was with me, and he could see the after effects of Halloween. They still got ghouls and goblins and all that stuff along the street, and I just commend Benson for what they do. They got a good community. With our chairman resigning, for obvious reasons, we've talked about that, it creates an opening on the board that we have to deal with. Council has led us, a group of commissioners have been appointed to come together and go through this process. We advertised in the various media, social media, and the appropriate places that we were instructed to and that we should. We received 3 applications. Of course, the applications have to be a member of the Republican Party and have to live in that District 3, I believe it is. And we received 3 good quality applications. Me and a couple of commissioners got together last Tuesday evening, and worked through the process of we were going to interview these people, screen them, and that sort of thing. And we were able to get up with we contacted each of the 3 applicants, and they were from within different parts of that district, but all of them met the requirements. And they were able to meet with us on Wednesday evening at different times, independent times. And we also arranged to meet with representatives from the executive committee of the Republican Party to go over the process with them. And we got together with the applicants, and I'll let Commissioner Smith, who was an important member of that group that interviewed him, to maybe talk about that.
We had, I really was impressed. There were 3 really quality applicants, and they were serious, and we asked them a lot of questions. We talked about what they brought to the table, why they wanted to be a commissioner, and what they could offer as members of the commission. We had Richard Braswell, Gary Wayne Lee, and Ralph Stewart, and we interviewed each gentleman, probably 20 to 30 minutes each one, and clearly they were all outstanding. And at the end of the day, as we're facing the need to build infrastructure, especially water and sewer infrastructure, we felt like that Mr. Braswell brought a lot to the table because of his experience with water and sewer, and what he knew about how to deal with building infrastructure. And so because of that, we felt like, and the Republican Party agreed, that we should appoint him to take your place. So therefore, I'm going to make a motion that Richard D. Brass will be the person to take your place.
I second that motion.
Okay, we've got a motion, we've got a second. Is there any more discussion? All in favor of the motion? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
What do you see in the process, him being sworn in next month, Counselor?
My recommendation would be that we go ahead and get him sworn in the beginning of December, so he is ready and prepared to serve at your meeting on December the 6th. That would be my recommendation, and with your consent, I can ask the clerk to contact Mr. Braswell, and we can make arrangements for that.
What's always worked well for us is swearing in that morning at 9 and then coming right into the meeting at 10. Of course, it's entirely up to Mr. Brazel when he wants his swearing in to take place.
I would like, and of course, the decision is yours, the seat will be vacant as of December the 1st. If we could go ahead and get him sworn in, and then if we want to have, a recognition with his family and that sort of thing publicly, we could certainly arrange that.
And I
That's
could have
the
put my
board's pleasure.
deadline to that date had I thought about it, but I was just trying to
Right.
not end the month out.
And just in case there was some emergent situation that occurred, not having a gap would be preferred, but certainly that is the board's choice.
I think it'd be prudent if we could get him in place the first, get him all his material, all his information that he needs to have, and I think it would be a lot easier on y'all as well.
Right. Let him sit on the agenda review so he'll have the information. And another thing that I think that's when this board generally elects officers,
That's
the
correct.
chairman and vice chairman. So he would definitely want, and y'all would want him to have an input in that because that's who he's going to serve under or might be one of those.
Right, which is why I believe it would be ideal to go ahead and get him sworn in and ready, so as soon as that meeting is opened, he's there ready to serve. Because you do take those steps that first meeting, and typically that's the very first thing that you do.
Any other board reports or comments?
Thank you.
Chairman, we have not contacted any of those applicants until we had board action tonight, but the clerk will be in touch with Mr. Braswell. I will contact the other two applicants to advise them of our actions tonight.
And keep in mind, filing period, I think, is still scheduled for December 6th. And I think we'll have a week or two, so he is, for the public, he has chosen tonight to fill out my term. But anybody in my district, registered either Republican, Independent, or Democrat, has the full opportunity of filing, running a primary and a general election. So I feel sure Mr. Brazel, I know Mr. Brazel will be a great candidate. Y'all got a great pick there. He's a good man, very knowledgeable, Christian man, and he'll serve this board and this county well, there's no doubt. So look forward to watching it. A few things. I'd like to thank the citizens of the county. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be here. You're who I serve, and you've allowed me to have almost a decade in public service. It has been an honor. You gave my dad 14 years. He felt the same way, and I'm going to still be around. If you need me, come by, and I'll still try to help you the best I can. Staff, thank you. Anything I've needed, y'all been supportive. Every employee of Johnston County. If you talk to people, as Mr. Galvin said earlier, outside the county, our people are bar none the best. They are. They're revered around. I know people get frustrated a lot of times dealing with bureaucracy in the county, but talk to other people outside that do business with our staff. Bar none, the best. Board, thank y'all. Thank you. Y'all been great. You let me be vice chair for 2 years, chair for a year, and if I didn't make the decision, I believe you would ask me to be chair and support me as chair one more year. And to my family, thank you. They suffered the most, came in at an early age. My kids' formative years, took a lot away from them. My wife, we got some time to make it up. They're still young, and she's still with me. With all this much time, I don't know how long that'll be. But anyway, thank everybody. It's been great. Nobody's got a crystal ball. I don't know what the future holds, but for now, goodbye. Is there a need for closed session?
Yes, sir. I move the board go into closed session for the purpose of consulting with attorney employed by the board in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege pursuant to NCGS 143-318-11A3 to discuss matters relating to the location or expansion of industry or other businesses in the area pursuant to NCGS 143-318-11A4, to establish or instruct staff concerning the negotiations of the price and terms of a contract concerning the acquisition of real property pursuant to NCGS 143-318-11A5, and for the purpose of personal pursuit to the North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11A6.
Second. Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the motion? Aye. Opposed? We are now in closed session.
All right, we're live.
Good evening. This board went in closed session to discuss some sensitive items. It was voted unanimously to go back into open session. And what do we have in front of us, Counselor?
Mr. Chairman, as you know, the contract for services.
Turn that microphone on at the bottom. There we go.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, as you know, the contract for services with Four Oaks EMS expired at the end of June 2021. Johnston County EMS began providing EMS services to the Four Oaks area on July the 1st, 2021. Since the expiration of that contract, we have been working cooperatively with Four Oaks EMS regarding the transition of assets from Four Oaks EMS to Johnston County and respectfully request formal approval of the agreement you have before you, which memorializes how the assets will transfer and the responsibilities of the parties to finalize that transition. We would like to thank the Four Oaks EMS for their many years of service to our community and for a smooth transition of operations to Johnston County EMS. I'm pleased to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions for Counselor? If none,
I would like a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the negotiated items.
Second.
we've got a motion, we've got a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. That concludes all my items.
So move we adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.